All right, let's do a show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inside Coverage on Yahoo. The how and the why, any and everything you need to know about the National Football League. There is no offseason coming to you today. About 2.5 weeks. Hold on. Let me look at my calendar here because I'm bad with my math. It's 3 weeks before the draft. I got it. No, we're 2 weeks before the draft. We're 2 weeks. You hear laughter in the background. Just because this is the most overdressed I've ever been for the show, Frank Schwab and Charles Robinson are allowed to laugh at me because I think I'm good at math, but there are days where I'm bad at math. Hi, C-Rob.
How you doing? I'm definitely bad at math, so we can...
I think I'm great at math. I've just made some really bad mistakes on air, claiming I'm good at math.
That's how I ended up in journalism, being bad at math.
I'm good at math.
Story.
I'm good at math at a blackjack table. Does that count?
Gambling math?
Gambling math. The odds on craps. I could do that in my head. You know.
Are you still allowed at blackjack table?
I am. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, okay. I haven't broken any casinos yet. Let's put it that way.
You're not the guy because I saw that recently. Off season, by the way, totally off season, and it wasn't me. Totally off season, right? I was at a blackjack table, and this other guy at the table didn't know him. Sat down, and I would say on the second hand, he didn't do anything outrageous on the first, but on the second hand, they came over and they said, "Mr. Schwab, we'll just use Schwab here. Mr. Schwab, yes, you can't play here.
You're not allowed to play." Wow.
Right. And it was that's facial,
awesome.
You'd have to think the facial recognition software that all these places use, he got dinged and they're like, "Yep, you out of here," because
at least it didn't backroom him. I'm
guessing he's pretty good at math.
Yeah, you got to be good at math to get that. No, I've never gotten that treatment yet in the casino.
Okay, well, goals. Don't laugh at me.
Hashtag goals.
I can be bad at math, although I think I'm great. And today I'm slightly overdressed. I was doing the broadcast boot camp thing, which is now happening at NFL Network. So they are talking to tomorrow's future, the future rather, of NFL broadcasters, along with MJD and Jason McCourty. Always a very cool event. I'm just the point guard setting up those guys to tell today's players how they could take their job. MJD made a great point. I'm here to train you to take my job. So he goes, much like you get drafted, you walk in, you're like, "Oh, great. This is great for a year." And then the next guy, next year, he's getting drafted to come in to take my job. Let's get to the football. However, there are 10 teams. And later on this show, we will do which coach is in the best position, which coach is in the worst position of the 10 new head coaches who are allowed to have their teams in the building this week to get an early jump on the offseason program. The Ravens did it yesterday. They were the first of the 10. The other 9 fill it in today and Wednesday. And coming up in about 20 minutes, we'll hear from Jeff Zrebiec, the writer for 15 years covering the Ravens for The Athletic. How big of a deal was it that Lamar Jackson was there yesterday? Also some really, I think, good insight on how the Maxx Crosby thing went down and how the Ravens feel about it now. But let's talk about John Harbaugh, because yesterday, guys, the story was, and Ben and Jory and I discussed it, the story was Dexter Lawrence isn't showing up. He wants a new deal. He has no guaranteed money. Today, we heard from John Harbaugh.
What are your thoughts on that and, the prospects of him being a Giant moving forward?
Yeah, we'll find out. I think the prospects are going to be high because the Giants, speaking for the Giants, we want Dexter here, and I believe Dexter wants to be here. That's a good formula, but there's business involved. It's a business proposition. We know it's pro football, and these things happen every year, pretty much on every team. So not surprised by it.
All right, that's John Harbaugh. Devon Achane also not in Miami today as new head coach Jeff Hafley opens up the Dolphins offseason program. He is not the only one. Myles Garrett, as Todd Monken opens up the Browns offseason program, not seen in the building today either. C-Rob, voluntary is the key word. We kind of kicked this around yesterday. Not all no-shows are built the same. Your thoughts on Lawrence and this whole discussion about whether it's important?
Yeah, I mean, I think normally I would say no, it's not, because he's a veteran, and as John Harbaugh says, this is part of the NFL. This is the transactional nature of it, and really the only leverage you have as a player is just to not show up even for the voluntary stuff. But I guess to me, the reason why this is important is just because you've had a coaching staff changeover, right? Like this is the first time that this staff is really going to get eyes on a lot of these guys. Relationships start to form between the staff and the players. And, I'll say this is a very interesting trial now for John Harbaugh because, when he was in Baltimore, he didn't have, I don't think, the amount of juice that he wanted in personnel. I think he would have liked to have not worn the carpet out between, his office and Eric DeCosta's every time something had to happen. Same with Ozzie Newsome prior to Eric DeCosta. I think that's different. He has the juice now here with the Giants. And this is the kind of situation that now he's going to have to weigh in on a little more heavily than in the past in Baltimore. It would be great if Lawrence was there. This doesn't surprise me every time. Players get to a certain point in their career when guaranteed money runs out. That's when you ante back up, and that's what he's trying to do right now to get another bite at the apple. But I'm curious to see how Harbaugh sort of flexes his rattles his personnel saber in this instance. I thought it was funny that he said, well, we'll see. It's never a great first two words out of somebody's mouth when you get asked about a star defensive player.
I took it a different way. You're right. You're completely right that this is a big kind of first test for John Harbaugh being in control, I guess. But I also was struck by him saying, look, this stuff, it happens every year. And that's the truth. Sure. Like it does. Like the teams deal with this all the time. Let's not freak out about an April 6th trade request because trade requests don't need to be honored. And just that the Giants have gone through since basically Coughlin, all these like first time head coaches. Well, now they bring in a guy who's seen it all. Right. And John Harbaugh has seen every single thing you could possibly see in the NFL at this point. So him just being basically the we'll see was very funny. But, him basically being like, in another clip, he says, everyone's tradable. I don't know. Like, he's just so like, well, we're going to figure this out. This stuff happens every year where I thought it was almost a good passing, a little bit of the first semi-test for John Harbaugh. Like, look, we got this under control. Don't panic. Don't worry. Dexter's a great player. And he is. Dexter Lawrence is a wonderful player. And you're right. Like, new coaching staff wants him in there. But Dexter Lawrence could show up the 10 minutes before week one and still make an impact. He's that kind of player. He's awesome. He's just great. So I think this is much ado about nothing. But yes, I think the big story here isn't necessarily Dexter Lawrence because I think he's going to get paid because the Giants want him there and he's a really, really good player. But it is about John Harbaugh and him kind of being in a new role with a new team and that market and everybody wanting to see how, this is a test, John. How do you react to this? How does this get settled?
Well, and you set a trend too, remember? Like whatever happens, however this goes, you're setting your first footprint.
Like the 49ers having guys hold out every single year, Joey Bosa and everybody. Yeah, you're right. Nick Bosa, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's early and it's a contract standoff. It's not the first week of training camp. Right, where you actually have a calendar where, hey, if you don't show up in 5 days, we can start taking your money. It's not that. It is fully voluntary. We could argue how much the guy should be paid, but I certainly understand any player, especially one of Dexter Lawrence's caliber, injury or no injury, and declining performance a year ago because of that injury, perhaps. But the guy wants more money, and he doesn't have any guaranteed money, and it's his right. This is his leverage. Withhold your services, as minimal as they would be right now. I am all for it. I think every situation is a little bit different. Achane would like a new contract as well in Miami. The Dolphins have said they will not trade him, but if they're burning the house down, figuratively speaking, why wouldn't they listen? Achane isn't there. In Cleveland, Myles Garrett isn't there. Much like with Lamar, he's not usually there for the early part of the offseason program. Would you, with a new head coach, like him there? Yeah, you would. That's fair to say. But at the same time, I'm not in a position to kill someone for not being there when it is voluntary. When you give everything for X number of months out of the year, once the real stuff begins, if you need a little more time to refresh and recharge, especially coming off the season that you just had. But both can be true. It would be nice to have you there, certainly, and that's the way it is. Now, most coaches, I'm curious to see how these new 10 head coaches handle this. Most coaches the last couple of years have flat out avoided telling reporters who is and who is not in the building for any particular day. They're going to stress, hey, guys, this is voluntary. It's a way of protecting the players. It's also a way of avoiding the story and avoiding the questions. Guys, here's my rule. I'm not going to tell you who's here. Okay? Don't ask. I'm not going to tell you who's here. Now, the team can post on social media, as the Ravens did. Here's the player walking into the building. It's what the Browns did on Tuesday. Here's Shedeur Sanders walking into the building, and Isaiah McGuire and Malik Collins, Jerry Jeudy walking into the building. Obviously, there are ways to get out the story if the team chooses to get out the story. But Frank, you're writing right now on Yahoo's NFL page about a panic meter, and you include Dexter Lawrence in all this. The panic meter there is not very high. However, the Steelers, let's dive into that, Frank. We know how you feel about the way Aaron Rodgers played last year. You are not bashful about that. So I would think that if he doesn't come back, there's part of Frank Schwab that already has there needs to be a parade at the confluence of the three rivers column written.
He wasn't bad. Come on.
Yeah, come on. No.
Bad.
You have said you don't think he's good anymore. So why should the Steelers be high on the panic meter, my friend, if Aaron Rodgers hasn't told them what he's doing yet?
And that's the whole thing. I think that the Steelers put themselves in this position again and let the free agency world pass them by quarterback again. And what about the draft? They're going to do that again? Aaron's going to be here. I don't know if it's weird to me how they put themselves in this position. And I keep going back, and every time I write about this, I say this. Omar Khan sat there at the combine and said, we're not doing this again. We're not waiting for Aaron. No, we don't have a deadline, but this isn't going to drag on. It dragged on like it did last year. No, it's not June yet. I get that, but you've already missed out on every backup plan you could possibly have. Like if Aaron Rodgers does say no, and we never know what Aaron Rodgers is going to say, what are they going to do? You could talk.
Look at the look on his face there. By the way,
you could talk.
Whomever picked that photo, that is, if you're watching on the stream here, that is just. I cut you off, Frank. The look of a man who is not happy to be in a podium right now, staring into space, contemplating the dark side of the moon and the totality of life.
Yeah, they can talk up Will Howard all they want. He's a 6th-round pick who's never taken an NFL snap. Okay, and I just wonder, why do you do this for a 43-year-old quarterback whose ceiling is very, very low at this point? The last I checked, 43-year-old quarterbacks don't get better from the year before. We saw every year we see Aaron Rodgers is going to be the best of Aaron Rodgers going forward because it's not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse unless your name's Tom Brady and you're a cyborg. So why are you beholden to a 43-year-old quarterback when you could? I'm not saying Malik Willis is a great fit. I'm not saying Tua or Kyler at pennies on the dollar was a great fit, but you could have done something instead of just being like Aaron's going to come. And I expect Aaron Rodgers to be there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do, like everybody does. But okay, great. Aaron Rodgers, he's 43. He was average last year. You guys barely made it in the playoffs. It got boat raced in the first round. That's what you're shooting for again? I just don't know how they put themselves in this position.
I mean, let's look at the franchise and the history at the quarterback position. They got it right with Roethlisberger, right? Mm-hmm. That was a long time ago. And he played a long time.
Has great. 17 grandkids now, and then he's in the same draft class.
Well, since he's gone out the door, consistently they have not gotten it right repeatedly, and they've tried in different ways, whether it's Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, drafting Kenny Pickett. They've thrown the kitchen sink at it. I mean, if you really look at all the guys that have been through there and the fashion in which they walk through the door. So, it's a bad sign. It's definitely a bad sign for them. And I don't know if they're staring at that 2027 draft and saying, hey, there should be a bumper crop of quarterbacks there. So we're not going to, worry about it right now. Maybe they have a backroom, agreement already with Rodgers, maybe Rodgers
so, right? Don't you assume so, Charles?
That's what I assume.
Cousins doesn't sign with the Raiders unless he knows that this isn't happening.
Yeah, that's the sign to me that I kind of felt like this puts this into a little more perspective. And remember, if they do kind of have if Aaron's told Mike McCarthy, look, I'm coming, but I don't want to do this whole thing where I want my off season just like I wanted it last year. I don't want to do this thing about, why is he not here for voluntary workouts and having, other players comment on him on their podcasts and all that other stuff. I'm sure he doesn't want anything to do with that. So Aaron's just like, look, we'll announce it. I'll come in, after we announce that I'm coming back, and that's just how we'll handle this. But I'm with you.
It does benefit hypothetically the Steelers if they have their backroom hush hush, wink wink, nudge nudge deal, and then we get to draft day, and teams are still uncertain. I mean, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, if it's
potentially,
the uncertainty though would have to be that they're going to draft a quarterback, right? So is this really that draft where we're not showing your hand with the quarterback? Really, does it aid you that much in this draft? I don't think
Ty Simpson is falling there at 21, I don't know that he's a Steeler. I don't know that Ty Simpson's built for the AFC North. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you leave other teams guessing, potentially the Jets at 16, the Steelers at 21, I don't know. Every team, this. It's lying season right now. Like the coaches or the GMs rather, all in the next 2 weeks will have their pre-draft pressers. This is how much information you get out of them. Zero. It's actually like this. It's almost like a beautiful dance between the media and the GM trying to get something out of them. And they never do. So I guess if teams think the Steelers may need a quarterback, maybe, but I don't know how much it gets them.
Does it help the NFL too when you think about it? I mean, in terms of, the draft is such an event now, right? They've turned it into this tentpole. Travel's going to be in Pittsburgh. And does it help the NFL to kind of have that mystery around the Steelers pick as well, right?
It does.
It helps the TV,
It does, but I don't pretend to know what goes on in the super secret boardrooms at 345 Park, but having worked on the other side of the curtain, I think we think there's far more manipulation with that than there really is.
Oh, I don't think they have a hand in it. Yeah.
I'm not saying.
I'm just saying
it does help them. But there are fans who think, oh, no, the league's going to tell them to shut up. No, they're not. Look, is there? Do teams like the whole thing about the number one overall pick? We all know it's likely going to be Mendoza. Would the team prefer if the Raiders don't make that announcement for a little bit of suspense? Sure, but the 21st pick, they couldn't care less.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Just trying to look for the silver lining here.
No, I get it.
Talking about Rodgers in April again.
I get it. But at the same time,
May and June.
We're going to. And listen, Cam Hayward last year called him out like, you're either in or you're out. You want to be a Steeler or you're not. I get it. He does. If let's say he doesn't want to go to the offseason program, he doesn't want people calling him out and criticizing him for 2 years ago. He went to Egypt rather than showing up for the mandatory minicamp there for the Jets, and that was a story. Mandatory is mandatory, right? Voluntary, this is a little bit different this week. But Aaron knows this. There are always going to be people that will take shots at him. I think he revels in it as much as he pushes back against it and likes to be the victim, but likes to have people pick fights with him. That does get exhausting after a while, doesn't it?
It might. Again, what's the end game here? You get Aaron Rodgers back. Great, throw a parade. What do you think happens here? Like, you think Aaron Rodgers will lift you to a Super Bowl? No. Like, what? Why have they put their entire franchise on hold?
Well, that's a different question. They have that, and Rooney said this when they got rid of when Tomlin left and when McCarthy came in. Rooney flat out said, like, we don't rebuild. We're not going to do that. Should they be doing that?
Yes.
You think they should?
Oh, absolutely. And this was their chance to. You change coaches. You say, wow, our defense looked really old last year and pretty slow. And we had the most expensive defense in the NFL last year. It was average. We got to do something about that. And we can just start over. Let's just have a reset year. As Charles pointed out, as everybody is talking about, the 2027 draft is really the key here. So you get a little bit better draft pick at 2027. Maybe you get your quarterback there. You sell Will Howard up and down over the offseason. We want to get a look at this guy. And maybe he hits. Who knows? You might hit that lottery.
What are you like trading TJ? TJ? You're telling Cam, hey, buddy, we'll take the cap hit now, even though he played well last year. It's that kind of teardown?
That maybe not that deep, but yes, if you can get something for TJ, I think this was just the time for them to rebuild because it was changing. When Tomlin leaves, you're like, all right, we could go about a different path now. We don't have to try to go 9-8 again and get blown out in the first round of the playoffs. We could just let's try to actually build up to a Super Bowl. I know so many Steelers fans are so frustrated, and I've always said, like, don't be so spoiled. You make the playoffs every year. But then again, I get it. I'm like, what are you chasing here? What are you chasing right now if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026? Like, maybe you win 10 games, maybe 9. You don't lose by 23 against the Texans in the first round this year. I just don't know what the end game here is with all this.
Yeah, I mean, it's we always talk about it's the velvet rut, right? And
yep.
It's just, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if ownership on down says we're not going to do the tear down, we're not going to do the total tear down and the rebuild. And on top of that, like we just saw an NFL report card comes out and, the Rooneys have gotten dinged, and now people are talking about them. They're cheap. Like maybe they're cheap and you guys don't really realize this. And if your owner's sitting there and they're cheap, do they want to flush all that money, right? I mean, because everything comes with a cost. I mean, sure, maybe you can get something for TJ Watt. I'm sure you could, but financially, you're going to take a hit financially, and you're going to be paying a bunch of money to somebody who's not on your team. There are multiple veterans like that. What do you do with DK Metcalf at this point? So, like, you have to start to look at it and say, if there's a teardown, who fits the teardown window? I don't see a lot of guys on their team that really fit a teardown window right now in terms of surviving it and coming, being a player that contributes on the other side of a teardown, because a teardown's multiple years.
Yeah. Joey Porter, Jack Sawyer, they're the younger pieces on the offensive line. Yeah, no, there are guys, absolutely, but they're also top heavy. They are top heavy.
Very.
Yeah. No one's suggesting a Dolphins teardown, something like that. It would have to be something middle of the road, but that's not what they're going to do.
I think Frank would like to see a Dolphins.
Like, I mean, I guess Dolphins teardown is extreme, and we'll get to that later. But don't you guys agree that chasing 9-8 is just, what are you doing? Like,
but that's what they've been doing that for a decade,
and it's been dumb for a decade.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't mean you need to be dumb for 11 years. Take shots at me. I'm trying to be fair here, whatever. But you guys know it as well. They've been unable to get off the hump or get over the hump. I'm screwing up my metaphors here. They're picking 21. Maybe Aaron Rodgers comes back. Maybe a quarterback falls to them, Ty Simpson or whomever. Maybe they feel Garrett Nussmeier is their guy. Maybe they take him or somebody in the third round. Who knows? But they're in this weird no man's land. That's what Mike McCarthy is dealing with. All right. The Ravens have a quarterback. They have Lamar Jackson, and he is in the building this week. Why is that news? And here's the other way to say it. What does Lamar Jackson showing up this week say about how he felt about the last staff and those coaches? We'll talk to Jeff Zrebiec, who covers the Ravens for The Athletic. Also coming up, which of the new head coaches, John Harbaugh could be an answer, is in the best situation, which is in the worst. That's around the corner on Inside Coverage on Yahoo. I want to stress that everyone listening to this show or watching this show, your attendance is voluntary. We appreciate it, however. Jeff Zrebiec here from The Athletic, who covers the Ravens and has for well over a decade. His attendance is voluntary. But, Jeff, we appreciate you joining Inside Coverage today. This was not mandatory.
I'm happy to join you guys. It's a fresh start for all of us.
It is a fresh start, and it is a headline. Who is and who isn't going to voluntary offseason programs? It felt very intentional this week when the Ravens posted on social media. Note they didn't have cameras outside Maxx Crosby when he walked in the door, but they posted that Lamar Jackson was walking in the door. Why was that such a big deal?
I mean, look, in the past under John Harbaugh, there wasn't a whole lot of time and energy spent here on who is and isn't showing up for organized team activities, for voluntary workouts. But this is a new start for the Ravens. They have a new coaching staff. There's a new energy, and there's a lot of attention, as there usually is, on the quarterback. And the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, hasn't typically been a regular at voluntary stuff in the recent recent past. So there was a lot of attention on, we haven't heard from Lamar since the loss in week 18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers kept them out of the playoffs. He has not spoken to the media since then. So how does he feel about John Harbaugh's dismissal? How does he feel about the new offensive coordinator? How does he feel about the fact they haven't been able to get a contract extension done with Jackson, which was a clear priority for them this offseason? So for him to show up, it continues what's been an offseason where team officials say he's been very engaged. He was involved in the head coaching search, involved in the offensive coordinator interviews. So it certainly suggests that despite the fact there's been no contract extension, Lamar and the Ravens are in a pretty good place in terms of their communication and all that.
Jeff, roll with me on this one. I'm going to use some kind of relationship reverse psychology here. And Eric Mangini went there earlier this week, too, on Fox. And that is, all right, your significant other may say, oh, you showed up for this, but you didn't show up for that. Okay, that's great. So Lamar Jackson showing up for the new head coach in Jesse Minter, what does that say, considering, as you pointed out in your story Tuesday morning, like they hadn't shown up in years past for this? What does that say about his relationship with the previous staff?
Look, I think for much of his time here, Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, who was here the last couple of years, obviously, not the whole time, had a pretty good relationship. But regardless about what anybody's saying in recent years, and all parties have sort of defended the relationship since, things got tough this year. There's no doubt about that. And I just felt like things got stale. If you were around the team, there were some miscommunications that really shouldn't happen with your franchise quarterback and, you know, how close he is to playing. Is he practicing? All that. It just seemed like it was time for a change. And on all accounts, I think Steve Bisciotti realized that. To a large extent, I think that was factored prominently in the decision to move on from John Harbaugh. They felt like Lamar needed sort of a reset here, new voices in his ear, new leadership. And, you know, Lamar did earlier in his career attend these things. It's more in the recent years that he wasn't a regular. So, you know, as I said, I think for much of his time in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh got along great. They produced a lot of wins. They had a great relationship. I'm sure they'll have a great relationship moving on, but I think it was time. I think both sides recognized that they needed something new.
Talking to Jeff Zrebiec here, who covers the Ravens for The Athletic and has for, was it 15 years now? Is that what we figured out?
About that,
15?
yeah. I started 2011, so we're getting there.
And you just had your first coaching search. Amazing.
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind when it comes to stability, you know, elsewhere. But that said, all right, so roll with me on this. When, you know, whichever side of the curtain you're on in this business, are you the same way like me when you wake up Sunday morning and you see like the big, Florio calls them splash headlines? It's not the content, it's the context. Like, do you sit there and go, all right, I know where this came from. Like, I'm going to connect the dots and what's the purpose in this story, right? Not taking shots at anybody, but like we all know how the sausage is made. We're on the same page with that, right?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So let's go back to Christmas Eve last year, because we on this show have talked a lot about the column in the Baltimore Sun that called out Lamar and said, come on, show up to work on time, be in better shape, don't play video games all night, eat better, like be the leader. You got an extension that's coming to you. Should we actually give it to you? Now, Jeff, you know a lot of that stuff had been floating in the ether the last couple of years. Yeah. We all kind of knew it. But I looked at that and went, and I'm going to go a few good men here, who ordered the code red? Like, it was just very curious timing. What did you think of all that?
I thought it was, you know, all that stuff, a lot of that stuff is whispers I think everyone in the building had heard before. You're not in the building regularly. You've heard them before. I mean, you just mentioned that. So I think a lot of that was a byproduct of the frustration of losing. I mean, Lamar has a way he wants to do things. He believes in doing things, a way of preparation, how he goes about things. He is very resolute in how he wants to do things. And when you're winning, when he's winning MVP awards, when the team's playing great, everything's great. Everybody is, on the same page. When you start losing and you're arguably the biggest disappointment in the NFL as they were last year, and he's injured and frustrated, he can't play, he can't help. They're frustrated knowing how much is on the line and he's unable to play with the injury. I think stuff like that comes out. Some of the stuff kind of rises to the surface. It's a lot easier to all get along and all be agreeable when you're winning and he's winning MVPs. And that's the fact of the matter. So I think my first thought was this is a byproduct of losing. This is a byproduct of frustration that he's been unable to play with injury, and their frustration as a team that they frankly haven't played well and weren't able to consistently win even when he was on the field.
Yeah, it's always difficult to try to figure out sources. It's a dangerous business to get into. But like my first gut was like, well, that's someone clearly sending a message to him. And, when you hear Steve Bisciotti on the podium, and it was unbelievable, obviously, after they fired Harbaugh, his open mic afternoon, it gave the entire world content for weeks and weeks and weeks, when he flat out said, hey, you want to be involved in the coaching search? Get on the stinking plane, buddy.
Yeah.
Like you could have as much power as you want. Just you kind of got to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, engagement, that's been a big word. Mm-hmm. How much does he want to be engaged? They're ready for him to be as engaged as he wants to be. You can't force somebody to be engaged. And that's been a big word with the Ravens. And that goes back to the first question. Like, why is this a big deal that he's here? Like, I got so many messages, Andrew, in response, like, so the starting quarterback's at voluntary workouts. So, shouldn't he be? Well, yeah, yes. But that hasn't always been the case. And I think that's one of the things that they are pleased about, that they feel like they're in a good place because he has been engaged. He was on head coaching interviews. He was involved in talking to new offensive coordinator Declan Doyle when they were pondering, their next offensive coordinator after Todd Monken departed. He has been involved in talking to Jesse Minter and Doyle as they begin to sort of formulate their offensive system. So, engagement's a big word, and by his level of it this offseason, I think they're encouraged.
What do you now, or how do you view the Maxx Crosby thing, differently or otherwise, after spending 3 days at the lovely Biltmore in Phoenix? Or were you, like a whole bunch of us, happy to be there, but at a Marriott property across the street?
Oh, I wasn't across the street, man. I was at some. It was a Marriott property, but I wish it was across the street. Those Uber rides were taking me 25, 30 minutes each way.
Dude, there were two Bonvoy properties right there in Camelback, right across the street, man.
I blew it. Anyway. I got a really good deal. I was a company man, and I got a really good rate early, and I sacrificed proximity. You know what, Andrew? I don't view it that differently. Okay. I honestly think some of the narrative has been a little over the top in terms of, first of all, I get why Maxx Crosby is ticked off. I get why the Raiders are ticked off. I'm not disputing any of that. But what I would push back on is that there was some grand plan that the Ravens knew pretty well early on that they were going to execute, and they were going to fail them on the physical come hell or high water and all of that. I talked to team officials the night they agreed to that trade. They were over the moon. Like they were thrilled to get Maxx Crosby. Obviously when he came to town, they saw something they didn't like on the physical, and they've been historically conservative on physicals. They've failed guys in the past. They are stricter on that probably than a lot of teams, and they decided they couldn't go through with it. I mean, you're basically trading as much as 10 years of control on 2 first-round picks for this guy. I don't think the issue ever was, well, he's not going to help us this year. They believe Maxx Crosby, even it will absolutely help him this year, but you make that trade and you trade 2 first-round picks, you expect the guy to be on your team for a good 3-4 years, and you expect him to be, a very high-level player 3-4 years. And their concern was the conditions they saw in the physical were going to make it difficult for him to be that guy 3 or 4 years down the road. And look, the optics are bad. I've said that from the beginning. And when you make a decision like that, you obviously have to wear it. You can't comment publicly about Maxx Crosby's health. You have to absorb that criticism and all that comes with it. And they're doing that. You can't say, why us? I mean, that's part of it when you pull out of a trade of that magnitude. But I do think they had their reasons for doing it. And I think that's pretty clear. And I haven't seen all these other teams jump in the Maxx Crosby mix either, to be honest.
Correct. And I do think they had their reasons as well. The timeline is always curious. And yeah. I would love, this is not to punch holes in a story, I would love to sit down with Max and actually go through the minute by minute, because he says, well, it's 5 hours. I didn't see anybody. Just as far as you understand, the Ravens don't do the physical on the premises in Owings Mills. As most teams do, you go to a hospital or some other legit medical facility off-site, right?
Yeah. And, some of that, I'm sure it was a long day for Max, who's meeting
definitely
people
a long
for the first
day.
down.
Yeah.
So, I'm not accusing him of anything. I want to make that clear.
No.
But,
Nor am I.
Yeah. But, I know, there was a talk that Harbaugh, or excuse me, I'm still stuck in the John Harbaugh era. Yeah, Jesse Minter and Eric DeCosta did not meet with him early. Jesse Minter was part of the greeting committee with him in the morning when he came in the building at first. So maybe his words, he meant he didn't have an official sit down with him, and they didn't, who knows what he was saying. But obviously, I imagine there were a million thoughts going through his head. I feel for him. I'd
be furious.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't blame him at all feeling the way he does. And, as I said, I think some of the criticism has been a little much and a little over the top. Like they had all this figured out. But I think the optics are bad, and you have to deal with some of that stuff. And if you're in the Ravens, you can't come out and say, hey, this is what we saw in the physical. You'd be slapped with, I'm sure the NFLPA and Max's agent, Max wouldn't appreciate that too much. So you made the call.
Yeah, the Raiders would be even madder than they understandably were. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And when you first sat down, and Jeff, we appreciate your time here. When you first sat down and I made that joke about the cameras, that really was my question, because the Ravens have a great social media and in-house production team, and all 32 now are their own little movie studios. And I have no doubt that if they were full steam ahead and truly saw something that day on the physical where they were like, oh my God, we're out, that they did have cameras there when Max got out of the car in front of the castle, that the Jesse Minter interaction, however brief it was, that is on tape, right? Yeah. Because you wouldn't have this kind of acquisition roll up and get out of the car with his loved ones, with everyone down on the curb, without it being filmed.
No, there's no doubt about that. And it would be interesting to find out what they have on tape. There's cameras everywhere in that building, as it is, So, I mean, it just, the whole situation is odd in terms of, it was they agreed to a trade on, a Friday night?
It was a Friday night, yeah.
And he wasn't in town till Monday night. And I think in talking to people at the owners' meetings from other teams and people, some, came forward. I know Jerry Jones came forward and defended the Ravens. Obviously, it's been reported that one of the Cowboys doctors was involved in seeing his MRI and all that. But one of the things people did say is, look, they had questions about the timing of it. Why didn't they? Yeah. They're so excited about this addition. Why didn't they
get him on the plane?
Him in? Yeah, get him in immediately. And I don't know the logistics about some of it. Was there a reason? I know Max had a little party there at the night of or the day after and did some things. I don't know. I can't speak of the timing, but I think when you make a trade like this, I think everyone now in the league knows you need to get that guy in immediately.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point that I made the following week after I had some friends in Cleveland accuse me of defending the Ravens. I'm not. I'm just saying an in-person physical actually does matter. If not, then we're all going to go to telemedicine and never see our doctor ever again, which is how we're moving, I know, as a society. But like, we all still want to sit down and see our doctor every now and then. The point I was trying to make is, you actually can see something on the physical, but you should do it like, just set a clock. Like, a deal is done 24 hours or 36 hours, like, get it over with. And everyone talking about, like, why didn't you fly to Baltimore? Well, like, it would have been nice if you flew private. Jeff, living in Baltimore, BWI is not the most connected airport. I looked it up. The only flight Vegas to BWI every day is on Southwest, so they had to fly to Reagan. I'm sorry, had to fly to Dulles and then get a car up there. Which, having grown up in Northern Virginia, is a royal pain. It is, in the butt. It is awful. Anyway, we're not Kayak here or Orbits. We'll actually just be a football show. Jeff, I appreciate the time. The off season is over, my friend. Thanks for doing this, and hope our paths cross again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Inside coverage on Yahoo. I've checked the calendar. We are 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from the NFL draft. Thursday, the 23rd of April. There are multiple teams, more than I could ever remember, that have 2 first-round picks, multiple first-round picks, including the Dallas Cowboys, 12 and 20. They are not trading 12 and 20, Frank Schwab, Charles Robinson, to the Browns for Myles Garrett. I could put that one to bed. It is not going to happen. However, that 12 and 20, when you have a quarterback making 60, Frank Schwab, those 12 and 20, when you have a wide receiver on a franchise tag, are vital. Key draft questions for the Cowboys. You're writing about it on Yahoo's NFL page. What do you say?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are easily one of the most interesting teams of the draft and of this upcoming season. And I know people get tired of talking about the Cowboys, but if you look at it objectively, Dak Prescott's coming off a phenomenal year. Like, people were talking about him as MVP candidate, and he really played at that level. The offense is fine. Can they fix the defense enough? You change coordinators, you bring in Christian Parker, and you bring in a couple guys, Jalen Thompson. Quinn Williams, basically, he gets a full year now this year. You trade for Rashawn Gary, and now you got picks 12 and 20. And I don't like that Micah Parsons trade, but whatever. Here you are with a lot of draft capital. And they have so many ways they can go. The one thing that stands out to me, the one possibility is, if you look at the draft trade chart and the value chart, the old one, right, going up 12 and 20 equal about number 3. Sonny Styles is right there. And if you look at the Cowboys and their makeup, their biggest hole right now, I think, is off-ball linebacker. They could have the most dynamic linebacker in this draft. And I think if you're the Cardinals, you say, well, we're not an off-ball linebacker away, and I don't really know about the top of this draft, so let's just move down and get an extra pick. I'm fascinated by that. Or the Cowboys could just sit there, take 2 defensive players. That's what Nate Tice and Charles McDonald have them mocked to do. I think everybody's going to mock them to do that. They could trade for a veteran. They could trade an offensive player. Somebody falls to them. If Colonel Tate falls to them, they could just be like, whatever, let's make our offense better. I'm
You want the Cowboys to draft a wide receiver?
I just, the best player available? Just go best player available. Why not? Why not? If you, I think they have so many options. They're fascinating to me. I can't wait to see what the Cowboys do. Because I really, truly believe the Cowboys might be like nipping on the Eagles' heels this year. I think the Cowboys are that good. I think they've added a lot to that defense. The coordinator change is huge for them. And they're going to add 4 quality defensive players to a defense that already had some talent. We all knew that. I think if they do this draft right, they can. The Cowboys are going to be good, man. I think Cowboys are going to be really good this year, actually.
No drafting any Michigan defensive linemen. Every time they do that, it's such a huge miss for them. Yeah, I think they're intriguing. I mean, the Sonny Styles pick would be pretty fun. I'd love to see him in a Cowboys uniform. But yeah, I mean, Frank laid it out. They have every avenue open to him. And I'd still consider, especially whether it's 12, I mean, whatever pick you would want to move, I would consider possibly scooting back and trying to add some more capital in 2027. And I don't just mean in the first round. I mean, the first couple of rounds, it's going to be a very, very, deep draft. And so I don't think the window is just this year. I mean, not that I see a lot of teams wanting to trade up right now in this draft, right? Like, who's going to be trying to get to 12 and what player are they going to be trying to get there for? I mean, maybe Jeremiah Lip. Oh, let me ask you that. What if Jeremiah Love is sitting there at 12?
Oh, you snap. You run.
He's not going to be there.
I know he's not.
He's not going to be there.
I know he's not, but let's go ahead and pretend something crazy happens on draft night and Jeremiah Love somehow gets to 12.
Anybody who falls in their lap because you had the extra first round pick. If somebody falls in your lap who you didn't expect to fall, you're like, yeah, why not? We got another pick coming up in 8 picks. That's why they're so fascinating. I mean, having that draft capital is really interesting. It gives them, they're the chess piece right now because they can, like you said, they can move back, get some stuff for 2027. They can move way up if you really want to. They can do whatever. They can trade for a veteran if somebody's out there they really, really like, not Myles Garrett. The Cowboys are a really fascinating team because they're in a win now window. If you look at all their moves since Micah Parsons, have been win-now moves.
Yeah,
you traded a lot for Quinnen Williams. You traded a decent amount for Rashawn Gary. You paid Jalen Thompson. It's a team that wants to win now, and I believe Jerry when he says, like, he's full of bluster. We all know that. But I do believe he doesn't want to sit. He's 80-some years old now. He doesn't want to sit and watch the postseason again.
No, he does not. He'd also like to win a game when he gets into the postseason, which would be a new thing of late. All right, so Frank's writing about that. Check it out on Yahoo's NFL page. Last year, Brian Schottenheimer is one of the new head coaches. This year, the Cowboys are in their second year with their coach, so they are not one of the 10 teams that are allowed with a new head coach to have their teams in the building this week. No on-field stuff other than calisthenics. That's it. Meetings and workouts, and no on-field football stuff as of yet in phase 1 of the offseason program. But it led us to this question, just thinking out loud here. Which of the 10 new head coaches is in the best and the worst situation to start their tenure here? Of the 10. Do we want to be positive or negative first? Do we want to let's do worst to first, okay? C-Rob, let's phrase it challenging situation. Which of these 10 head coaches is in the most challenging situation?
Look, Frank kind of stole it from me because he ranted about the Steelers as it is, but I don't like the situation Mike McCarthy is in, and we could argue whether or not it's the worst or not, but I think you sit there and you go, okay, with McCarthy's age, it's definitely, he's a win now, coaching hire. We've talked about the fact that the roster's aging. We've talked about the fact that you're following Mike Tomlin, which, look, fans can complain about Mike Tomlin all they want, but the second you fall on really hard times, I'm sure there are going to be some fans who are really upset, that Tomlin departs and now Mike McCarthy is left kind of trying to stitch it all back together. And then beyond all that, you're still sitting there staring at this quarterback problem. And I think if that's the number one thing, as soon as we started having this conversation, I'm like, okay, well, who's staring at a quarterback problem right now and expectations on top of it? Well, it's the Steelers. And so for that reason, I just think they're expected to win games. They're expected to continue to get what they can, whatever gas they can get out of this aging roster. They're expected to somehow make the quarterback situation work with Aaron Rodgers doing nothing but getting older. And he hasn't even committed at this point that we know of. It's all bad, I think, for Mike McCarthy. And you know what? That means that the Steelers will probably go 13-4. They'll be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Aaron Rodgers wins MVP.
Someone will be throwing this in my face in next January.
Yeah, they're called April predictions and conversations. It's past performance is not necessarily indicative of future gains, friends. This is for recreational purposes only. Frank, what do you say?
I'm going to go with Jeff Hafley. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, you're going into a Dolphins situation where this is a total teardown, and going 2-15 isn't off the table, right? Like, we all could see it going badly like that for the Dolphins. And your hope is, and look, I love the Malik Willis signing. I really did. I thought they got him at a good price. I thought it's a good contract for them to get out of. If he's not good, it's great for them. If he's great, all that. But we could all see how this goes sour. He's got 6 NFL starts. We could all see how this is Scott Mitchell 2.0. Like, and you're just like, whoa, we have nothing anymore. We have an unhappy Devon Achane. Thank you. We have an unhappy Devon Achane is really our only player of note anymore. And how do you sell your locker room? You're a first-time head coach, NFL head coach, and everybody knows. Like, everybody knows you traded this guy, traded that guy, traded Jalen Waddle. And now you got to go in there and say, hey, guys, let's win some games. Like, it's hard. And if he could pull it off, I'll be really impressed. I mean, like, Kellen Moore in a really tough situation last year did it. I was impressed by him. And we've seen other coaches kind of get the most out of their rosters that are expected to be bad. I just think this is tough for a first-time NFL head coach to go into a roster that is clearly just saying, 2027 draft, bring it on. We're ready. Nobody wants to eat a 1, 2, 3 win season like Jeff Halfley might this year.
I would trade Achane. Because why pay and let's call him elite? Why call him elite? Oh, call him A-list, whatever you want. Why would you give a second contract, and he's so good, to an A-list running back
undersized
if the rest of the team isn't built around him?
Like, what's the point? Yeah, I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Frank's out there taking shots at undersized.
He is undersized. I mean, he is. Like, he's not Derrick Henry. He's not going to be balling in 10 years. Come on, right?
He's not Jerome Bettis. That's another part to question too when it comes to durability and you're paying a running back long term. I don't know. I kind of feel for Dolphins fans, and I kind of feel for Malik Willis as well, who gets his big shot. I'm sure they communicated to him when he signed his free agent deal, because he does have a relationship with both Halfley and Sullivan, that, guys, this is how it's going to be. You're sure that this is what you want to do? So he had an idea, I would have to assume, but that doesn't make it any easier. My head coach in the most challenging situation, by the way, you guys both have great answers. I'm going to go with Mike LaFleur, not LaFleur, LaFleur, as I pointed out yesterday, because he does not have a quarterback. And while it is very early and strength of schedule, as of right now, the Browns have the easiest strength of schedule, the Saints, then the Bengals, and the Colts, right? As of right now, strength of schedule does not take into account the draft or free agency. It's only built on last year's final records. But as we sit here, the Cardinals have the 3rd most difficult schedule in the National Football League. You're in a division with the 49ers, the Rams, and the Seahawks. Good luck with that. Yeah. Established head coaches, all 3 legitimate Super Bowl contenders in your division. And the schedule is just brutal. You get your teams in the division. You also get the NFC East, the Eagles and the Commanders at home. You get the AFC West, the Broncos and the Raiders on the road. And then one of your those are at home. One of your one-offs is the Lions. On the road, you go to the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Rams, the Niners, the Seahawks, and then the Giants and the Saints. I know there's a lot of gobbledygook.
Wow.
It is the third most difficult schedule in the NFL right now, and you don't have a quarterback.
Who has the first 2?
Yes, the first 2. Hold on one second.
Because that's a gauntlet you just talked about. Wow.
Reading now from Yahoo's NFL page. The Bears and the Dolphins.
Oh, goodness.
Frank, you were optimistic saying 2-15.
2 of 15 might. Let me go. I need to go look at the over-under for the Dolphins win total real quick. I'll be right back. Yeah.
Strength of schedule, again, friends, is built on last year's win-loss percentage. Does not take into account quarterback moves, offseason moves, free agency, a draft class. None of that. Right. So once the season begins, I kind of throw it all out. But it does matter. Ask the Patriots. Don't get defensive, friends. It mattered in New England. You know that it mattered. You still had a very, very good season. Tip of the cap to you. But it does matter. And I think it's going to matter for both Arizona and Miami. All right. We go worst to first here. So the best situation. C-Rob, you go first. Which of the new 10 head coaches?
I'm going to say John Harbaugh. I mean, he handpicked. He could have had, I think, pretty much any job he wanted. So he handpicks exactly where he wants to go. He usurps some front office power in the process. But I think there is an actual potential answer at quarterback already in place with Jackson Dart. And I know, look, the injuries with him, the reckless play, I understand all that. But it matters to me that we've heard NFL players play against him and then come out and say, hey, man, that's a dude. Like, that guy's got something. Like, that really means something to me when you have opposing players who are already saying there's just something extra to that kid. And then on top of it, look, you're going to get Malik Neighbors back. You signed Isaiah Likely, and I do think Isaiah Likely will definitely do better numbers in in New York with the Giants, and you got, Theo Johnson. There's talent there. There's a base of talent there. Now we'll see ultimately how, things work out in the offseason with players who want more money, or, who shows up, who doesn't show up. What does the culture end up looking like? There's obviously a lot of factors here, but I think the fact that you have a head start at the quarterback spot is absolutely huge for the Giants. And I actually believe in Dart. I think Dart's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, I do as well. And that's a guy that the Giants moved back into the first round last year to make sure that they did get. And so far, it looks like they did get a dude. What do you say, Frank? Best situation for these 10 new head coaches?
Yeah, and I do think Harbaugh is probably the answer. Although you look at it and you're like, well, it's a 4-13 football team he's taking over, and that's a tough market, and they expect him to be the savior right away, and that's a lot of pressure on him. But I'm going to go a different route, and I'll say Jesse Minter, because look, how often do you talk about stepping into a quarterback situation? Well, you're coaching a 3-time All-Pro quarterback in Lamar Jackson. I get he's complicated. We've all read the stories, but he's still Lamar Jackson. And I get, ironically enough, get kind of Mike Macdonald vibes out of Jesse Minter. He's going to go in there. He's going to fix the defense. He's going to give them a little bit of boost of energy. And, you correctly talked about how tough it is for McCarthy taking over for Tomlin. I don't know that it's that tough taking over for Harbaugh, just because the narrative the past few years has been he can't get Lamar to the Super Bowl. The Ravens haven't gotten to a Super Bowl. And then last year, the bottom kind of fell out. So you're almost coming into a situation where the bar isn't as high as you think for taking over for a Hall of Fame coach. I think Jesse Minter coming into a rock solid organization. The Ravens are always good. I think this was a great move for Jesse Minter. I think he's a heck of a defensive mind. I think he's going to be a really, really good coach with the Ravens. And if you do get Lamar to a Super Bowl, you're hailed. Like you're Mike Macdonald 2.0, basically. So I really like the situation Minter's in.
I do think, obviously, they come from the same tree. Macdonald, Minter, Michigan, Baltimore, and now it's Jesse Minter coming full circle. It's why he was the obvious choice when John Harbaugh was fired the week after the season. I think it's a good pick. It is not an easy division, but you have the pieces, a lot of good pieces in place. And now look at that. You have the 14th overall pick as well. Look at that magic. So you could actually add a premium player if one falls to them, which one always falls to them. It is a tale as old as time. The coach I'm going with is Kevin Stefanski. And the news out of Atlanta today is that Kyle Pitts is signing his franchise tender. He's going to be there. He's going to show up. He gets the 1-year deal, and he will be part of the offseason program with the new coaching staff. Now, the quarterback is a question. Obviously, you have Tua, you have Penix. Who knows what they're going to do? Okay. However, they have on paper, I know what I just said, the 5th easiest schedule so far. 5th easiest schedule as we sit here today in April. And they have Pitts, and they have Bijan, and they have London, and they have an offensive line. And no, I do not expect James Pierce to play this year for the Atlanta Falcons. That's not a big headline. It's not exactly a shocker. Read everything that he's going through right now. But they have some exciting pieces on defense. They have Jeff Olberg coming back. Mike Rutenberg left. I think the Falcons, especially in the NFC South, are going to be okay, more than okay. Now, I don't know this for certain. I promise you, don't aggregate this. I'm not predicting this. But wouldn't it be interesting if Kevin Stefanski's Atlanta Falcons visit the Cleveland Browns in week 1? Anyone?
I like it. Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now, the Falcons do play in Cleveland this year. Oh, I'm not suggesting it's the Sunday night game on NBC, Football Night in America, nor Monday night. And I'm thrilled, by the way, that we're done with the Monday night doubleheader. Count me the guy that didn't like that. But my gut tells me that's an interesting Sunday 1:00 Eastern game, week 1. For me.
You sure you're not reporting something right now?
We got inside info.
This feels like you're reporting something.
Swear I'm not reporting it. No. Other than international games, teams really have no idea what the schedule is going to be like. They don't. We're going to find that out the first week of May. That's how that is. The league really enjoys the space they're in now, and this happened 2020 in COVID. where they waited until after the draft to do the schedule because everything was backed up and people are working from home. And now they went, wait a minute, why haven't we been doing this for years? This makes sense. Why would we ever set a schedule before we figure out what the draft is? The draft changes things. So now it's the week after. I do not know that. I am not reporting that. I just think it makes sense. Like, if you want interesting 1 o'clock games, that's an interesting one for some people. That's all.
Tua versus Deshaun Watson to open the season.
Oh, Sunday night fun. I'm waiting all day for Sunday night for that one, I'll tell you.
Hey, and I'm getting my Twitter's blowing up because content gets aggregated. Me claiming Deshaun's going to start today, week 1, when I was on the radio in Cleveland. I didn't say that. Said he's getting a shot to win the game, to win the job. He's getting a shot to win the job. And it should be noted, all 3 Browns quarterbacks, because Dillon Gabriel was not in the building much, if at all, before the start of the offseason program. All 3 are there. Dillon Gabriel is still very much a Cleveland Brown. All right, let's get Strike Out the Band to one more thing before we go. Speaking of Fernando Mendoza, Frank, what do you got?
Yeah, just want to talk about the news today from ESPN that Fernando Mendoza will not be attending the NFL draft, which is really unusual for a number 1 overall pick. I don't know the exact history, but I know Dan Wilkinson didn't way back. And then
Baker didn't do it.
We had a couple, yes, and the COVID guys. Burrow wasn't there, Lawrence wasn't there, Jameis wasn't there. But usually number 1 picks are there. They, like Cam Ward, walking across the stage when the Travis Hunter trade was announced, but whatever. He's there, gets a... But this is a separate case. I hope everybody realizes, and I think people do by now, Fernando Mendoza's mother deals with MS. It's probably hard for her to travel. I don't know specifically that that's the reason Mendoza's not going to the draft, but it makes sense that he would stay in Miami, be with his family, and it totally fits what we know of Fernando Mendoza. He's a seemingly kind-hearted guy, family guy, talks a lot about his family and his importance to him. So him being in Miami, even though it's a little unusual for a number 1 pick not to be at the NFL draft, totally understandable. And hey, good call by Fernando Mendoza to not be at the draft, but it's still going to be a really, really touching moment when he gets drafted.
Yeah, I don't think we'll all survive. It'll be okay.
We'll be fine. Yeah, we'll be
fine. We'll all survive. I don't know, though, if we'll survive your one more thing, because, Charles, when I first saw that, and I watch a lot of baseball, I thought you were joking, but this is actually a thing?
Yeah, this is disgusting. We're clearly running out of baseball hat technology, or we're like, this is like the version of like the new burger they create at McDonald's or Burger King. You just can't. You can only do so many things.
This isn't an April Fool's joke from last week.
This is not an April Fool's joke. I thought it was. I saw it on our social media. Jake Mintz, who's a baseball writer, he tweets out, "Never seen this before. Edwin Diaz rolled out to stretch today in a brimless hat, just a regular Dodger cap with the bill sliced off."
Did he slice it off?
He said Tanner Scott started the trend.
Okay.
So we went with the hats being blown up to like 10x, hats, right? We did that whole thing.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Now we're doing brimless. Like, this is just...
So what if I'm going to send you a brimless Tigers hat to wear on the show next week?
Never.
Would you rock
it? Will
that?
Never happen.
And Miguel Rojas has worn one as well. I think this is a Dodger creation, like a clubhouse creation. I don't know. Look,
we've had hats. I swear, we've had hats for like more than 100 years, right? And now this is where we're all right. We'll make them 10 times the size they should be. Let's see if that catches on. All right, let's start stripping stuff off of them, starting with the bill. What are you doing here, man?
While we're on the subject of caps, I went down. I was searching all corners of the internet, eBay, and everything yesterday. If anyone here listening knows how to help me with this, looking for the 2016 Guardians cap, then it was Indians cap, where it's dark blue, but with a light blue C. Might have been a Father's Day special. I can't find one anywhere, but I think it's a really cool color combo. So if anyone can help me find a hat from 10 years ago, again, Cleveland hat, light blue C, let me know. Not like the light blue top, but just the light blue C. Thank you.
Did it have a brim? Did it have a brim on it?
It did have a brim.
Okay, good. Okay.
DM me or drop the comments in the chat, the YouTube chat. I'm crowdsourcing. I'm trying to find. I don't want like a nasty used one off eBay. That's like buying someone else's old hat. Nah, I don't want to do that. But if anyone knows where I can find one, please let me know. Thank you. All right. My one more thing is this. Are uniform reveals still a big deal? The Baltimore Ravens announced today that they will debut a new uniform collection this year built for the next era of Ravens football. I don't know if it's a one-off, like a standalone thing, like they did baseball does City Connect, and the NFL did their Nike uniform, their Nike division ones, like NFC West did those things last year, whatever they were called. I don't know if that's what they are doing. There's only so many ways you could do purple, black, and white. But like the Falcons unveiled their new ones last week. And honestly, my old NFL Total Access partner, Lindsay Rhodes, and I had the same reaction, which is, what's new? Like, I don't get it. We don't have the Falcons on the screen. I didn't tell anyone I was going to go there. But like with some of them, you just can't see a difference anymore. Do you guys still get interested or excited for uniform reveals?
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, you
really? I could be like a fashion writer. Yeah, it's great. But I will say, 90% of the NFL look better in 1994 than they look now, or they look the same. Like if you go back, watch the 1994 season, everybody's uniforms look better except the ones that are the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I get really excited about it, and I made the mistake of once getting involved in revealing a certain team's new logo when I shouldn't have done it, and I got a really angry. Really angry.
Does that look different?
That looks. That does not look.
Yeah, it looks very similar.
Like I thought they had an old tweet loaded and just hit the wrong button.
Yeah.
Like what's the Falcons? Go back to the Falcons 1994 uniforms. They look fantastic. They
were
the
94 Falcons uniforms are pretty dope.
That's actually a great idea.
The Rams with the blue and yellow. Come on.
Yeah. I think the Rams' best helmet. I don't have a Rams helmet here. Is the blue and white one.
Deacon Jones. Yeah.
The blue and white.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are nice. Those are sharp. I will say that.
That one's sharp. But Frank, here's what you should do. You said 94. You want 94 as a baseline? The NFL should say, hey, in 2026, we're going to go back 40 years and we're going to go to 86. And then just like every now and then say, hey, all 32 teams this year have to go back X number of years. Now, not all 32 teams were around, obviously, in 86.
Texans, sorry.
The Texans were not there, but don't get me into the whole Texans-Oilers thing. I like the new Titans threads, but there's something kind of sort of wrong about the whole thing.
Agreed. Yeah, it's terrible. Like, don't steal the Oilers.
But it's fair. They moved, and there was no.
The Oilers' uniforms are awesome, and they should not be in Tennessee. That's stupid. Stupid.
But they moved. It's the same franchise, and it's not like in Cleveland where they left everything behind. There was an agreement. It's not like that.
Come on, that's ridiculous.
No,
you know what would be cool?
No, they're not the Oilers. They're not the Oilers.
We could put the Seahawks in the AFC for a week.
That's right. I forget about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Go back to that.
NFC Central. We'll realign everything.
Yeah. So you'd put the Titans in the AFC Central. Correct.
It's still weird to me that the NFC North doesn't have the Buccaneers in it. All those years of watching.
The Saints in the NFC West.
Green Bay, Tampa Bay in the 80s, the Bay of Pigs. Yeah, I watched a lot of those football games growing up.
I mean, the idea that the Saints were in the NFC West is still absurd.
Yeah, that's fair.
We are dating. We turned into three old dudes.
Old men.
We're three old guys riding our bikes to 7-Eleven to get our Slurpees and get the old football helmets that we could.
Dude,
put
I have a full set of those, like right here in my office. Like I'll show you sometime.
They're collector's items.
Great, yeah.
It's an antique roadshow at Frank's house. By the way, coming up. This has been fun. This has been another edition of Inside Coverage on Yahoo. As I said yesterday, thank you, gentlemen, everyone's participation is voluntary. We're thinking of making it mandatory for next week's shows, but right now it's voluntary, so we thank you for volunteering your time. For Frank, for Charles, and for Jeff Zrebiec, I'm Andrew Siciliano. So long.